Hello, friends. Welcome back to Data Matters, Syniti's Enterprise Data Thought Leadership Interview Series. As a reminder, by following Data Matters, you can expect to hear interesting discussions on key trends, initiatives, and technologies that are impacting the enterprise data and information management landscape. I'm Kevin Gulley, the head of product marketing at Syniti, and today we're going to be talking about data as a strategic enterprise asset, what that means, how companies can start treating data more strategically, and what they need to do to give data the attention and nurturing it needs to create maximum business value. I'm excited today to be joined by Syniti's Chief Technology Officer, Rex Ahlstrom, to dig into this topic. Thanks for joining me today, Rex.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Great to be here with you.
Well, it's nice to have you on. And I haven't been at Syniti long, but this idea of treating data as a strategic asset is a conversation that comes up often here at Syniti, and for good reason, because it seems clear during all these discussions that the shift in this mindset can really deliver real business benefits to companies. And so I sort of wanted to start by asking you, from your seat, you've obviously been involved in hundreds of different data initiatives with all kinds of different businesses across multiple industries. From your seat, what are the differences between sort of a tactical view of data in an enterprise and a strategic view?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And actually, before I give you an answer to it, I would also say that a lot of companies have been very reactive to how they manage data, which is one of the things that aligns to somebody being very tactical about it, right? Things go wrong, then they have to go in and figure it out, but they never really solve the root cause problem of that issue. And what we're seeing in the market right now is that a lot of companies, because of the pandemic and other things, have found themselves very flat-footed when it comes to having a strategic view of data. And so they've been very reactive, and I think finally, maybe within the market, have understood that they need to change how they approach data to be more strategic. And what it means is that people within the business are not fighting fires, not just jumping in to fix problems when they break, but actually looking at what is the data that's critical to the operation of the business itself. How do we proactively manage that data, which is most critical to the operation of the business? And then how do we put in the processes, the procedures, the executive sponsorship, everything it takes to make sure that we aren't being reactive and that we are taking more of a strategic view for the long term.
Right, reactive versus proactive sounds like it's really at the cornerstone of it. And I would imagine that with that, there's a big role that company culture must play in sort of making that mindset. You get, as you said, you get the executive sponsors, you start getting, team buy-in and business ownership buy-in. Does company culture play a significant role in your mind and what you've seen over the years in terms of helping make data a more strategic asset for businesses?
It not only plays a major role, it's a crucial element of having a company look at data more strategically. Too often in most companies, data is seen as a back office function. It's something that IT is responsible for, and yet the business complains to IT when it's not right. Where in reality, the business needs to take ownership of the data that they need in order to drive their functions, their responsibilities. And the way to make that happen within a company is to ensure that it comes from the top down. Right? If top executives within inside of these companies don't understand the strategic nature of data, or importantly, they don't make it a priority within the business, then why should other people within the business care, right?
Right.
So executive sponsorship is a massive piece, and really the value that we see is that companies that have this culture where data is seen as strategic means that the importance of data is understood at all levels of the company, not just at IT, but at the line of business users. Any consumers of data understand their role, and they also understand why it's important to the success of the firm.
As opposed to just being frustrated that the data is not good when they when they need access to it, right?
This report is wrong. Why is my process breaking? IT, go fix this.
Right, which is more of the reactive as opposed to the proactive and strategic approach. So for businesses to be able to pull this off, culture is critical, that mindset is critical, sort of top-down, bottom-up buy-in. But there's also got to be technology components of this to talk about people, process, and tools. We always talk about those kinds of things. So what types of technologies do enterprises really need to put in place to make data a more powerful strategic asset? Because it's a lot more than just Excel spreadsheets, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, although you'd be surprised how many times Excel spreadsheets are used in an attempt to do things with data or to fix data or to somehow make data improved, but that's
no
not
doubt.
the answer. It may play a role, but it's not the answer. So the first thing is that companies need to understand that technology is not a silver bullet. It's not going to answer all of their questions because I buy product X. It really depends on where a company is on its own data journey, its maturity, and understanding, again, the strategic nature of data. So less mature businesses struggle with the basics, right? How do I improve overall data quality? We know our data quality is bad. Or even before I can approach data quality, I have to get a better understanding about where data lives within my enterprise. I have a lot of enterprise applications. Maybe I'm geographically dispersed and I really have no clue what's in these systems, which brings its own issues as it relates to compliance and the increasing stringent nature of things like GDPR and CCPA and other regulations that.
So really more of a data sort of inventory is really critical for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
exactly. So there are systems that help you scan and determine where does data live within the enterprise. How do I classify and categorize that data? How do I determine if it is personal identifiable information or other forms of strategic data? Once I know where it is, then I can focus on using tools to improve that quality, which also, again, is not just an IT function. It involves engaging the business. So you need software that can address different personas in the company to be able to solve these types of problems. And lastly, companies that are more mature, that have solved some of these problems already, have more of a data-centered business focus, which means that they can implement master data management programs, data governance programs, and other things that, especially in highly regulated industries, are going to be really critical for compliance.
Right, exactly. And so when it comes to additional sort of even next level stuff, when you're talking about some of those more mature groups, are there roles that sort of cutting edge technology are playing? So for example, machine learning, artificial intelligence, things along those lines.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Machine learning and AI is kind of seen as the fix-all, right? If I have AI ML, right, you can't go into a technology conversation with a software company without hearing those words.
Sure, yeah.
Then it will solve all of our problems. But yeah, it's interesting because we've had some recent discussions with IBM about something that they refer to as the cognitive enterprise. And this idea that it's not just about having AI/ML, but what those technologies can do to actually start deriving outcomes that machines can take care of versus people. If we can train models or take actions to improve data, and we know that that delivers on a business outcome, then we should be able to train algorithms and systems to be able to self-heal or to immediately alert or to suggest ways that even business users can proactively improve data. So we're collaborating quite a bit with IBM on this idea of the cognitive enterprise and how we can look at data, the metadata and models of information, how they support business process, and then how we can have this continuous improvement that isn't just human powered, but can be machine powered as well.
Right. We talk here at Syniti a lot about the idea of really having trusted data and having that kind of capability pulled together with the types of solutions that we offer here to be able to make sure data becomes more and more trustworthy consistently is critical. And I want to take a loop back here a little bit to the idea of the data conscious culture that we were talking about a little bit before, because all of that comes together between the culture and the technology to really make sure that we're trading trusted data consistently. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of what companies that have made that shift towards a more data conscious culture, a more strategic view of data, in their enterprise, what kind of benefits can they expect? What kind of benefits do you see them receiving?
Yeah, so trust and assurance of data is a big topic, right? How can I make sure that this report is accurate, or that I trust that the proper sources of data were used to generate this report, or even that from a compliance or third-party data perspective, that I'm using data that I should be using and avoiding data that I shouldn't be using, right? That's also a big deal in certain regulated industries. But focusing on that level allows, again, data contributors at all levels to be, one, more aware of how data will drive decisions they make, either right or wrong, but also what they do and how what they do contributes to a more consistent level of trust in data. If people at the point of entry understand the downstream impacts that a poorly written description of something or leaving fields out will have on either a business process that may break or a report that could be wrong, then they're going to be more conscious about doing the right thing up front, right? So that culture creates trust in data because everybody is focused on doing things right the first time and not just trying to go back after the fact and fix bad data quality or data quality errors.
Right. And that actually comes to sort of my last question, because it seems on the one hand there's upside, and the other hand there's risk to businesses. What kind of risks does having a more strategic view of data inside an enterprise eliminate for these companies?
Yeah. So I just mentioned the one, right? Business process failures. That's very very prevalent, right? You go to run a transaction, you want to ship a product, you realize you don't have a complete address, or there's other missing information about how a process should run. And those typically, if you're not focused on data, are fixed by people, right? You have teams that when a process breaks down, they come in and try to get things moving again. The other would be erroneous reports. There are a lot of decisions that are made on reporting every day at the board level, at the executive level, and what companies talk about to the public about what's happening with inside of their businesses and how they manage the business internally. But those are all sort of in the category of the stick, right? In the carrot and stick analogy. And while reducing risk is important and it's something a business should focus on, looking at the positives, the carrot, right? How can we look at improving that business outcome? And increasingly what we're seeing in the market is that companies are not buying technology or going into service engagements unless there's a very clear and valuable outcome that can be demonstrated. Right. And so from a data perspective, that might be lowering how much or lowering the amount of inventory I need to carry in my manufacturing operation, or I want to be able to increase cash on hand, or I introduce a lot of new products. I want to make sure that the time from ideation to when I can sell it is as short as it possibly can be. So creating a link between the outcome and what we need to do on the data side to support that outcome is crucial for ongoing success. It helps us fund these data initiatives. And again, it further propels the visibility of a data-driven culture because we have tangible outcomes that we can hang our hat on at the end of the day to say, because we did this with data, we achieved this as a business.
Yeah, I just was sitting in on a webinar the other day, and one of the topics was around the fact that 70+% of senior executives have made important business decisions based on data they knew was inaccurate or incomplete, and that's a risky thing for every business. So, Rex, this has been fantastic, very insightful. Every business should be, looking at this as a way to move their business forward, wherever they are in their data journey, to the point you were bringing up before. So, appreciate your time, and we'll do another one of these soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kevin. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Have a good day.